The Dirt with me, Mike Howell, an economics podcast where I present the down and dirty agronomic science to help grow crops and bottom lines. Inspired by eKonomics.com, farming's go-to informational resource, I'm here to break down the latest crop nutrition research, news, and issues, helping farmers make better business decisions through actionable insights. Let's dig in. Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to The Dirt. Glad you're tuning in this week. We're doing an on-location episode. We haven't done one of those in a while, but I am in Oklahoma, El Reno, Oklahoma, to be more exact. We are out here for the National Land, Homesite, and Range Judging Contest. Now, this is a contest I participated in as a 4-H'er years ago. Had the opportunity to bring some kids out here as a coach and always enjoyed coming out here and doing this. The Dirt is actually sponsoring part of the contest this year, and we thought it would be great to get some of these young people involved and let them know what all's going on out here. Before we get started, I want to ask each one of them to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about where they're from and other things they're working on, some of their hobbies, that kind of stuff. We're going to start off with Levi Steffen. Levi, welcome to The Dirt.
Thank you. My name is Levi Steffen from North Dakota, and I like working on the farm, and when I get older, I hope to take over the farm or farm with my brothers.
Okay, very good. Next, we have Lily Donahue. Lily, welcome.
My name is Lily Donahue. I live on a farm south of Tulsa, North Dakota. I'm active in a lot of things. I like reading, baking, horseback riding, taking care of my animals, and when I'm older, I want to be a large animal veterinarian.
Very good. And next we have Laura Steffen. Laura, welcome.
Thank you. I'm from Michigan, North Dakota, and I live on a farm by there. I like playing sports and I like reading.
So before we really get into the land judging part of it, let's talk a little bit about your trip from North Dakota. I understand it took y'all a couple of days to get down. I know that's quite a drive. Was it all work and no play, or did y'all have a little fun along the way?
Yeah, we stopped in Sioux Falls and went to look at the falls and took some pictures there. It was pretty cool to see the different rocks from the falls there.
I've never got to make that trip. That's on my bucket list, though. I'd love to get there one day. Anything else happening on the trip? I'm sure you had to do a little bit of studying along the way.
Yeah, I did a little bit of studying for land judging, and I also had to work on some of my schoolwork since we'll be missing a week of school while we're here.
That's always a challenge, making sure you keep up with that schoolwork as well. Let's talk a little bit about how you got here. There's teams from all over the United States that are participating in this event, and I know everybody's path is a little different. You have to do different things at home in order to get here. Some states have to win a state contest. Others send 3 or 4 teams. Lily, if you will, talk a little bit about y'all's path to get here, what you had to do.
Well, we've been doing land judging for 2 years. So last year we went to the state competition in August, and I believe we placed second as a team.
The first year.
And then this year we went to the competition again, and this time we placed first. We also placed top 3 individually. So then we qualified for nationals, and we began fundraising.
Well, that's quite a feat. Most people end up doing this several years before they can qualify to come down. So y'all did it in 2 years. That's pretty impressive. So today was actually your first day of practice out here in Oklahoma. I know the weather wasn't cooperating too well. It's been raining most of the day and tornado watches out everywhere. Other than that, how was the first day of practice?
It was pretty good. It was kind of frustrating. Some of the pits were full of water, and it's kind of scary to climb down in them just because of how slippery the mud made it. And then I saw it made the textures kind of difficult too because you couldn't get a dry sample of it. They were always wet. Some of them even were too wet. Other than that, it was pretty good.
Yeah, that's always a challenge out here. I've been involved in the contest for, I think, 9 different years when I was here, and the weather's always been a challenge every year. One thing, the very first time I came, they told me to put a hot dog in my pocket. And I kind of looked funny. I said, why a hot dog? They said, that way the search and rescue dog can find you first. Anything else that was a surprise when you got out here? Are the soils different here than they are back in North Dakota?
The dirt is much redder here than it is in North Dakota, and it's a lot more clay texture there's a lot more coarse texture in North Dakota, I think, compared to down here in Oklahoma.
That's something else I was going to ask, and you kind of answered it there. Do y'all know what the word Oklahoma means?
No. No.
Oklahoma means red dirt. Fun fact that very few people understand. Getting back to our topic here, Let's talk a little bit about the contest itself. What actually happens when you go to the contest? What are you evaluating? How do you evaluate different things for the land judging contest?
Well, there's 4 different pits. We go to each pit, you get 20 minutes. There's 2 stakes. You have to find the slope of the land. There's 2 buckets. One has subsoil and the other has topsoil. To find the texture of the soil. Then you also go down in the pit. You find soil depth, so you can find out the erosion because they have a card with the original. And then also like potassium and nitrogen and other stuff to figure out if it's sufficient or not. And then you fill out a card and you see what class of land it is, what treatments it needs, and what it's suitable for.
Let's talk a little bit about the texture. Y'all mentioned that several times. How do you determine what the texture is? I know if I send a sample into the lab, they run it through some processes and they can tell me the sand, silt, and clay percentages, and that's kind of what y'all are doing here, but you don't have a machine to help you analyze that. How do you determine the texture?
In land judging, it's classified in 5 different categories: fine, moderately fine, medium, moderately coarse, and coarse. And we just grab a handful of soil, and I like to squeeze it before I put water on it before it's wet. And if it stays together, then I know that it's fine. Coarse soils don't stay together very well. Then I'll get it wet after that, and then I can form a ball with it, and then I can see how the ball stays together, then I know it's on the fine side, or if it falls apart, it's more coarse. And then I try and make a ribbon, which is like pressing the dirt in between your thumb and your forefinger, see how long it is, and the length determines like if it's moderately fine or medium, that kind of thing. Doesn't really help with coarse. And then I can put a little bit of soil in my palm and like put a bunch of water in it, and then I can feel any grit in it. And the more grit, the more coarse it'd be, or less grit, it'd be fine. And then I also like to see if I can make a fingerprint in the soil too, because then that helps me determine if it's fine too. It's very sticky and clay.
We mentioned slope a few minutes ago. Talk about slope and how you determine the slope and why slope is so important.
So there are 2 stakes that are set at 100 feet apart from each other. So when you walk up, you determine which stake is the lower one, and you would walk to it. There's a bunch of different ways you can measure slope. So the most common one I would say is hold out your arm. When you're holding out your arm and you go eye level, then you can you're looking down your arm at the other stake, and wherever you hit, so like for example, I'm about 5.5, or actually no, I'm a little under 5 with my arm out, 5 foot. Then I kind of determine where I'm hitting on the stake or the ground. And then if I hit the ground, then I would go up to the spot. And let's say there wasn't very much distance in between there and the stake. Another thing I could do is kneel on the ground. And when I'm kneeling, I'm about 3 feet. And then if I hit the bottom of the stake, then I know I'm at 8 feet. So you have to do some math to kind of calculate how you do that. But the point of slope is just to kind of see if it's suitable for farmland or if it's more of a pasture land.
Slope is always one of the most challenging parts of the contest. If you can get your slopes right, you'll do really well in the contest on Thursday. Let's move on a little bit and talk about how you think this event may help you down the road. You all indicated that you kind of wanted to be in the agriculture field in one way or the other and all come from a farm background. What do you think this event will do to help you down the road?
Well, I think it'd be great for anybody going into agricultural field, especially into farming or agronomy or something like that, learn about the farmland. I'd say it's a good thing to get into either way. Just good to know more and help out youth when you're older too.
I'd say it helps me determine what can be grown on different kinds of soil and what the land can be used for, determine on the slope. It's kind of interesting when you're driving around, you can see how many hills are in those compared to the farmland that's more flat and doesn't have as many rocks in it, or just seems like it doesn't erode as bad.
I think it's useful if you were trying to buy land and figure out if you wanted to buy land specifically for one reason, you can use the land judging skills to figure out if it would actually be good for what you want it for or not.
Okay, some great answers there. And yes, you can use land judging to help you with all of that. A lot of people get to come to Oklahoma for the land judging, and it's not all about work and learning about soil. I think that's probably one of the most important things, something that you can learn and take with you for a lifetime. But talk a little bit about some of the fun things that you get to do while you're here in Oklahoma.
One thing we did was in Oklahoma City, we went to the bombing museum, learned a lot about that and who did it and how it happened. Didn't know anything about it before I came down here, so I was excited to learn about
That kind of gave fertilizer a bad name for a few years there. He used some fertilizer in making that bomb, but that's a pretty impressive museum. I've had the chance to go through that several times. Always enjoyed doing that. Anything else that's been happening?
And we went on the water taxi in Bricktown yesterday on the canal. It was really cool. There was a lot of art and things to learn in the city. I thought it was really pretty.
I've done that as well. If you've never done that, I highly recommend that. Anything else you've done? Have you got to eat lunch at Brahms yet?
No, not yet.
Any other events planned? And I highly encourage you to take time to go to Brahms. It's an Oklahoma favorite, and you've got to go there. Any other events you have planned while you're out here this week?
We plan on going to the Cowboy Hall of Fame tomorrow.
That's always a great place to go visit. They used to have the awards program there years ago. Spend several hours in there. A lot of great artifacts in there that need to spend some time looking at. Well, listeners, we really enjoyed bringing you this episode this week. I hope you understand a little more about the land judging contest and what these young people have to do to get through it. I know this is the way I got started in agriculture, coming to the land judging contest, and probably the main reason why I'm in the role I'm in today. Do any of y'all have anything you want to add before we leave? And one final question, how can you encourage other people to get involved in land judging? That just doesn't seem like the popular thing to do. Any closing comments, and how can you talk other people into being in land judging?
I would like to thank our coaches for helping us out, Preston, Tracy, and Caitlin. They helped us a lot. I would say if you have a 4-H chapter or an FFA chapter, definitely look into that. There's a lot of different ways you can get involved.
Yeah, I would say it's a really good thing to get into. People can look for their local 4-H clubs or school's FFA chapter and just get involved because there's a lot more activities other than land judging too within those organizations.
I would say if you want to get interested in land judging, it's just a lot you can learn about it, and it's a fun competition to be in, especially if you're not close to the competition site, then you can go on some tourist attractions, which is fun, like the museum that we went to.
Okay, well, we wish you luck in the contest this week, and we appreciate you taking time out of your practice schedule to come by and visit with us. Well, I'm joined now by Mr. Larry Wright. Larry is one of the officials here at the land judging contest. Larry, welcome to the Dirt.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here today and be with you and talk a little bit about what we're doing here at the National Land and Range Judging Contest.
Larry, we just had some young people on, and they told us a little bit about the land judging part of the contest. Tell our listeners a little bit about the Homesite part of it and the range judging contest.
Well, the Homesite part of the contest, I look at that one way as the experience these young men and women are coming through and taking that knowledge about soils and the land that we all can use, because most of us at one time or another, we hope to end up being a homeowner. And what you can learn about the soils as your basic foundation for not only your house and the structural needs to put a home in, but what if you're putting in a septic field? What do you need to know about your soils in order to be able to handle the waste effluent coming out of a house, or maybe a certain tree or top of grass you want to plant? So all this knowledge that these young people are learning about our land, if you will, and the soils particularly, that becomes very valuable when you're talking about how good is that going to be for a home? Can I have a garden at my house? What kind of trees can I actually grow? And this information, like I say, no matter what career these young people go into, the knowledge and experience they're gaining here, particularly under the Homesite evaluation, is going to be useful to them later on in life.
What about the range judging contest? That's one that I've never participated in and don't know a whole lot about that one.
We actually have, out of our 35 states that annually show up, at least that's kind of the number in our average, some of our states do not have native grasses. If they had pasture land, utilizing forage for grazing of livestock or what, even some places are losing that benefit of native grasses. So our rangeland, when we go out to judge that, they have to be able to identify these various native grasses. And all these native grasses and forbs that make up our rangeland are very valuable and provide additional benefits even way beyond the livestock, because these students will go out and they'll determine, first of all, what kind of livestock can I raise? Are they all beef animals? But in addition to that, we want them to understand what are the benefits for wildlife. Can this grow or support a covey of quail? Will turkey come out here and be able to exist on this type of rangelands? Actually, during the contest, they have to identify this, and And sometimes even it includes being able to identify, well, is there an invasive brush species coming in or a noxious weed that might show up? It does get into a lot of other things besides what we would like to see on our rangelands.
Very good. Sounds like a really interesting contest. Larry, let's talk just a little bit about the history of the event. I know this is the 75th event that's going on. Talk a little bit about how it got started and some of the changes that have happened over the years.
Well, I wasn't around when it originally started because it started a few years before I was born, actually. When they started this back in 1951, and with the interest that was going on with our agricultural lands and the production, and that's where the emphasis came out of. But working through various ag programs, FFA and 4-H in particular, and teaching our students the importance of protecting our resources. How do we manage our resources? How do we get the maximum capability out of these natural resources? Our competition was developed. I've heard some stories that the competition between Texas and Oklahoma was pretty competitive, and so they said, hey, let's create a national contest. And it began to expand from there. And like I say, when we're bringing states and even bringing like Hawaii will come in and compete all the way from Northwest into Washington, down to Florida, New Jersey, Vermont. You think about all those different states that show up from all across this country, and to make it a national contest. As we've grown this contest over the years, and Oklahoma is when they began hosting it, and as we've grown the scope of it, of course, along with that, cost and the amount of people it takes and the resources. One of our important resources, of course, is people, and finding the people with the technical expertise to be able to put on this contest, and the time and the volunteers. We jokingly refer to our volunteers as, once we get you on and you volunteer, even if you retire from your position, you don't quit the National Land Range Judging Contest, not only until death.
Well, I know it takes a small army to make this happen. We sure appreciate all the volunteers. A lot of people think this is a 3-day event, and you may have to spend a day before putting this together, but talk a little bit about the time it takes to put this event on and some of the resources you have to secure to make sure this is a successful event every year.
Maybe starting off with just, you think about the financial cost. Being a national contest, we want our awards banquet to be worthy of the national competition that this really is, and to basically find a facility that can host this. We're like our banquet, we'll seat and feed 1,200 people. So on the day of the contest as well, immediately following the contest, we'll also feed 1,200 for lunch. And because they all want to be able to meet with our judges, our soil scientists, our range scientists, and understand what the key was for the contest and what the official results of the sites. We don't give them the official results of the placing until we're in the banquet. We look at facilities and define facilities and schedule that and arrange that to come up with the cost. Of course, we do charge a registration fee for the teams. That'll cover just a part of our cost. We like to keep that as cheap as we can because these teams are coming from all these states. They've got travel expense, lodging expense, and that all goes with that when they get here. So we want to keep registration as reasonable as we can. So we're always out there seeking sponsors that are willing to give us some sort of donation. We do this as a nonprofit, so we're always open to receiving any donations to help cover the cost. We really like to keep it reasonable for these teams because we know they'll have a lot of other costs just to get here. And time-wise, we're planning the logistics that go on with finding caterers to do the food, the facilities. But then again, we have to have over 200 volunteers that come in to help with this. And a lot of retired people from the Natural Resources Conservation Service or the conservation districts. They're a great source of people. We do depend on the scientists out of the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Those are active employees. Of course, they're governed a lot about some federal guidelines of when and how they can help us. And a little bit of the same way with Oklahoma State University as our land-grant university here in Oklahoma, and using their people to come out and providing some people that have that experience and they're able to come out and help us. So it's a lot of time and spent, and we really get busy right after the first of the year, calendar year in January. We begin a lot of correspondence. I have key members heading up various committees, and we all get together either late February, no later than March 2, 3, or whatever, and all meet collectively to make sure everybody's kind of on the schedule. And if there's any gaps that we need to fill in, And so we stay busy all the way through March into April. Then we have our contest, and it's always been the first Thursday in May.
Well, Larry, we really appreciate you taking time to visit with us today. We appreciate all the hard work that you and the other volunteers are doing to make this event so successful every year. Is there any closing message you want to leave with our listeners?
Well, you kind of gave me a question I hadn't thought about, but as far as I can say, the thing I'm really impressed, I feel like we have some of the best young people that gives me hope in the future. These young men and women, they're all high school students. To be able to compete, they're between the ages of 14 and 18 years of age, but they are respective, they're courteous, they're kind, they're trustworthy. It does encourage me a lot to see these young people and see them. They can give hope when you listen to too much news that's come across media and it sounds like we're a lot of doom going on. But then I meet these young people that show up every year, and just with that kind of faith and knowing that there's a lot of good young people coming in.
Larry, I'm glad you mentioned that. That was one of the things that I've noticed in the few days I've been here. I've heard sir and please and thank you more than I have in the last 6 months put together while I've been here at this event. Really appreciate these young people and the training they've had back home. We've got a lot of coaches and volunteers that put in countless hours working with these people, but these are our future agriculture leaders. And I encourage anybody, if you've ever been in the land and range judging contest, go to the website, check that out, see what's happening these days. And if you can, make a contribution to help out these young people. Listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in this week. And as always, if you need more information, you can visit our website. That's Nutrien-economics.com. I want to invite you to hang around just a moment, and we'll be right back with segment 2. Farming isn't farming without questions. And now there's a place to go for answers. At eKonomics, an entire team of agronomists is waiting and ready to help for free. No question is too big or too small. Visit Nutrien-economics.com and submit your question with the Ask an Agronomist feature. Listeners, welcome back for segment 2. Today for segment 2, we have Dr. Carl Wyatt back with us. Carl, welcome back to the Dirt.
Thank you for having me.
Carl, today we have a Ask the Agronomist question we want to throw out at you and see if you can enlighten us a little bit. Today's question is, what factors limit nutrient uptake by the plants, and how do nutrient uptakes and nutrient removal rates impact nutrient management plans?
Yeah, Mike, solid set of questions there. In a perfect world, 100% of your applied fertilizer would just go down in the soil or be applied foliarly and get absorbed right into the plant and then used to make yield and whatnot. That'd be a perfect world. Everyone would be super happy. But of course, we have these challenges with efficiency. And so that's where understanding the loss pathways of your fertilizers can become a useful exercise, because you can kind of start to figure out where am I losing efficiency? Where am I going from a potential of 100% uptake of my nitrogen fertilizer, for example? Where am I maybe dropping to 60%? Or what have you. And that's where thinking about the behavior of that nitrogen fertilizer in the soil. How does it leach out? Nitrate leaches out of lighter soils, sandier soils. How does it run off when we have lots of snow melt or rainstorms as ammonium? How does it volatilize or gas off as nitrogen gas or ammonia into the air? So getting a good understanding of what conditions cause nitrogen loss, or you can apply the same exercise down to other nutrients like phosphate and potassium, sulfur, really gives you a good way of maybe kind of bringing in your fertilizer use efficiency to custom fit your field. And I think as a bonus, it gives you some action items on saying, hey, if I'm at risk for leaching loss of nitrate, here's the set of tools I can turn to, like the nitrogen inhibitor world, for example, where I can actually try to go combat my efficiency loss sort of mechanisms and try to start pushing your efficiency back up.
Carl, I know you want to take just a second and reference our eKonomics website and talk about our calculators there and how that can help with our nutrient removal and uptake.
Yeah, that's right. If you go to Nutrien-economics.com, you can find a solid calculator that'll help you take your yield information, let's just say corn bushels per acre on your farm, on your field, and you can actually plug that number into our calculator, and you can get an estimate of how much that crop is taking up over the season in pounds per acre, nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. You can look at how much is going to be removed when you go across the field at harvest time and start removing grain. And so you can use that information to actually write your fertilizer plan, because you want to be putting the nutrients back into the field that you're taking off. And if you're thinking about total uptake over the season, which is a pretty high number for a lot of these macronutrients, that's where we start to think about these efficiencies. If I got to hit such a big number for my total crop nutrition for the year, I need to know exactly what might get in my way, and I need to know how to mitigate those factors so I can push as close to that higher above 70% as I can for efficiency.
Great information, Carl. Once again, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to answer these agronomy questions for us. Listeners, thank you for tuning in this week. And as always, if you have any questions about anything we're talking about, you can visit our website. That's Nutrien-economics.com. Until next time, this has been Mike Howell with The Dirt. Hey guys, if you like what you heard today, do us a favor and share this podcast with someone else. It could be your neighbor, your friend, your crop advisor, or whoever you think would enjoy it. Your support helps ensure future episodes, so please like, subscribe, share, and rate the show wherever you're listening from.